Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. I am just in from homeschool co-op. It's raining here, freezing cold, and I got to jump in on a Reggie Middleton Twitter Spaces on the drive home. Excellent information. It was recorded, so I recommend you go and listen to that after our show. I'm going to run through some news articles really quick because there's so much going on every second of the day. I feel like we're having breaking news, everything from some guy scaling the Chase building in Phoenix to the CBDC rolling out in England and them limiting the amount of dollars or pounds you can hold in them. So we'll be right back right after this. And we are back. Sean should be joining us any minute. He's just said that he would be a couple minutes late. So we're going to go ahead and jump into some of the news. First off, I want to say happy birthday to my ride or die, my BFF, my happy hour buddy, Clint Westwood. It is his 50th birthday. So happy birthday, Clint Westwood. So grateful that you chose on that magic bus stop to meet me over here. So happy birthday, bud. And then there's just, one thing after another. Texas governor is banning TikTok statewide. I guess he's tired of those balloons going over his state too. Then there's something going on with moose stuff. I don't know, something with Canada. Then more news about, so originally there was like the AG in Virgin Islands got in trouble or fired, I guess, for holding JP Morgan accountable for the business dealings of Epstein, and now there are charges again holding JP Morgan, the banks, accountable for knowing what kind of business dealings were going on. So that's good news that is, and that could cause the bank failure. So good news to that. Cannon played a little Elvis today at the homeschool co-op. Oh, I better not play it. He did a presentation on inventions and talked about Thomas Edison. So that was pretty cool. The Fed Powell is talking about really concerned about the debt ceiling. He made a statement that, look, if you think the Fed can fix or prevent what did he say? If data comes in stronger than expected, the Fed will raise rates accordingly. So they're saying, like, we're not going to avoid this. They're talking about at the end of 2022, 99.3 million more consumers were living paycheck to paycheck. There's all these layoffs. There's, especially in the tech industry, you're seeing more and more layoffs. They're trying to put together, there's really some strange packages trying to avoid the Bed Bath & Beyond bankruptcy. The death toll is rising in the Turkey and Syria earthquakes that they're seeing. Here's the statement. No one should believe that the Fed can protect the economy if the debt ceiling is not raised, and only Congress can do that. So here's more layoffs. Dell is to lay off 5% of its workforce, which is over 6,600 people. This was the one. The emergency crews are working to rescue a person from downtown Phoenix's Chase Tower, which that's a bank tower. I think that's to get our attention. This was really cool. This is what Reggie was doing the Twitter Spaces about, talking about the alleged infringement, and he was walking through the patents and his suits against Circle and Coinbase, and explaining MakerDAO and the lawsuits, and how it compounds through Uniswap compound and all the way to cold storage. So, and the widgets inside that. Here's what I want to discuss with Sean, because there was another, well, I'll wait till he comes on, but here's a little bit more terrible information for LBRY. The SEC is just beating up LBRY. And there's a theory, there is a statement, and I had it sent to Nick Morgan from ICANN because I was like, I need some clarity on this. And he gave me some more information. There is a fund that, so if it's less than $200 million that the SEC collects, after they give out whatever, through a fair fund or reimburse people that were frauded or whatever, the money doesn't have to go to the Treasury. It stays in a fund for the SEC, and then supposedly that monies go to like whistleblowers and stuff like that. So I think the SEC needs to be audited, because that really gives them a motivation for hitting these smaller companies, as well as they can't fight themselves back. They can't fight for themselves. Like, they've literally bankrupted LBRY. And Gary said that himself, that they don't go after the big guys because they can defend themselves. Lauren Boebert says, tax season's here, but did you know that prior to 1913, Americans kept 100% of their paycheck? And a little over 100 years will have gone from that to an armed IRS agents and a tax code that's crippling. Which we had our state of the state yesterday in Oklahoma, and our governor, which I've got to show you guys this. It's just incredible. Our Governor Stitt, who's a constitutional governor and really has done some amazing things to protect Oklahoma. They are lowering our taxes, our income taxes, to 3.99%, and they're getting rid of what do they call it? I can't remember what they call it. It's basically like mutilation of children, and they're banning it here. And these people all came and like raided the state capitol. And so people are saying, well, why isn't this an insurrection? So I don't know. They stormed and occupied the Capitol yesterday during the state of the state, demanding that they be able to mutilate children. And our governor said no. So I was talking about the Oklahoma state of the state yesterday, and the dangerous insurrection there.
That's today.
Well,
what dangerous insurrection? I've seen.
It's yesterday.
Trans Lives Matter storm
in Oklahoma. It was yesterday.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, well, of course not.
You've heard Oklahoma's doing like a lot when it comes to like freedom and
yeah,
there's a bill about the drag queens. Did you see that?
I didn't hear about the drag queens.
Oh my God.
I listened to our state of the state, and the big takeaways were, that they're we have a huge surplus. We have savings of like $4 billion with a surplus of 1 point something billion, and we have all this like technology and aeronautics. They're really doing a lot for education, school choice. Also, our taxes are being lowered to 3.99%. Also, they are getting rid of the child mutilation. And
yeah, I forgot you had a state tax.
Yeah, we have state tax so far.
Crazy.
They're also getting rid of our grocery tax completely. And I'm guessing that
Wait a
the
minute, you
state
pay
tax will,
taxes on groceries?
yeah,
Not like stuff, but food.
yeah,
Oh, we don't do that. We don't have a state tax, and we don't
yeah,
pay food tax on groceries.
yeah.
We pay
And I
tax on
know
like if you buy a cooked food, but not groceries.
not
Like
groceries.
if you go to 7-Eleven, and 7-Eleven will
My
scam you. Since
my
I was
guess is
a
that
child,
it's like a temporary thing and we'll be moving to none of that. But
since I was a kid, I caught this at 7-Eleven. If it's supposed to be like if you buy a hot dog or something, nachos, something that's no nachos actually weren't because they weren't. You had to put them together. But like a hot dog or a roller or something like that, you had to pay taxes, and or maybe a fountain drink, but not like a can. But they just charge taxes on everything. And I mean, I remember being like 14, going there and be like, "Hey man, why tax my candy? You're not allowed to tax my candy." And oh well, you're right. Oh, I remember that clearly. I was like, I don't need to pay taxes. This is my candy. I'm owed lawns for this, man.
that's funny. Too funny. I wanted to find one more thing that I wanted to talk about
Oh well,
with you.
let me tell you about
That's a
the bill.
continuation.
The bill is about the it it needs, I think it needs some special wording
Okay.
where because what it is if a drag queen or drag performer performs in front of minors or children, it may be like really young minors, they can be fined $20,000 and face like 2 to 5 years in prison or something like that.
Interesting.
But there's no way that'll go anywhere. That's unconstitutional because it's it's not really racist because it's not a race, but it is really discriminatory. You'd have to say that if they're
Vulgar.
vulgar, lewd acts, I guess, yeah,
Yeah.
which is kind of already on the books, you know.
Yeah.
But it's, I guess,
Wouldn't the
we have to,
parents be held
now
accountable?
that and the stuff I read, the comments were all about that. That shouldn't the parents have also
Or
fall under
both?
this
Maybe
crime?
it is, yes, the parents would be held accountable for child endangerment, and then the perpetrator would also be um, held accountable. I don't know. I don't
Well,
know how
there's
that would
performing
work.
like lewd acts with a child in front of it. I mean, I know that's like a law because you're not really endangering a child. You know what I mean? See,
That
that's
is endangering them.
nah, you got to think about like all those cops that got arrested for killing that guy. They're all charged with second-degree murder because first-degree murder they could probably get off because certain charges
But
are
you're
very specific.
endangering them by damaging their mind.
See, that's all. That's all an argument. That's all. That's all substantive. What arguable. It has to be clear when you're talking about the law and in court. That's why there's specific laws and specific charges. Like those cops got charged with second-degree murder because they murdered him at the time, and they like didn't forget what they didn't care about his life or something like that. Third-degree murder is even easier, but first-degree murder they had to like get in their car and say, "Hey man, I'm going to find someone and kill him tonight," and you have to prove that,
with
and you
with
can't prove
planning and intent or something like
intent,
that.
right? You don't have to really have
Hmm.
planning, but intent. Um, like if they can prove that cop knew that guy at all, and then went to his neighborhood, that's circumstantial. But just something random, you can't. So you have to endangerment is more of a physical endangerment. But there's other stuff. I mean, there's laws on the books. There's so many laws. They just need to be, enforced or thrown at people. I mean, that's the one thing our government's been doing at a breakneck speed. Well, is making laws and regulating shit. So there's so much out there.
Crazy.
If you do something, you can get in trouble for like 10 different things.
Hmm.
In fact, those cops they were charged with some stuff I didn't know was even a thing. Like, violating your constitutional rights and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I thought it was a big deal that Oklahoma is taking a stand. They're not just complaining. They're not, posting memes.
No, there's a lot happening here.
Yeah.
There's two other things I want to talk about. One of them is this huge deal just happened today. So yesterday, England was hinting around saying by 2030, they're going to release their CBDC. Today, they release it. And they, by the way, not only release it, but they say that they put a holding limit of 10,000 to 20,000 pounds for the new CBDC.
That's heavy.
That's crazy.
That's heavy because it's a pound.
No.
It's a joke.
I don't think it's funny.
You gotta be quicker.
Like, that is like, and that's not for everybody. That's just for the common people. That's like, doesn't apply to the powers that be or the accredited investors or the who would be there. What do they have? Parliament there?
Parliament Lords. They have a House of Lords,
Yeah.
which was crazy. It's a ruling body. It's like they say it's not really a ruling body, but it's a serious ruling body. It's like a third branch of their government. But anyway, they're all just royalty. They're not. No one's elected. They're just born into those roles, and that's a huge part of their government that they just don't talk about. It's like, oh, don't talk about it.
Insane, completely insane.
But that's a thing I think we need to focus on more. Just because you got to piss people off. We're done. We're not going to fix it.
Okay.
Not gonna change it. They have the power. They're not going to just be like, hey, you're right. No.
People are pissed off.
And
I can't believe how blatant, though. I mean, I'm sure everybody's watched the Grammys or saw the clips, the most blatant satanic parts, that Sam something where he's like, they're all in red and they've got fire and somebody in a cage and they're like transvestites and rubbing themselves and whatever. And Ted Cruz came out and was like, I can't believe these Satan worshipers, whatever. Like, they've been doing that kind of stuff and that blatant for a long, long time.
That one dude, the
Sam,
Old Town Road, he had sex with Satan. He had gay sex with Satan. It's like,
I don't know.
What do you? It was like.
But this is where I'm like, okay, we have to be getting to the end of the road of this for them to be like
sex with the devil, and that was like his video, and that was like not a big deal. It was insane. So I don't know, there's nothing to be shocked about, I think, anymore. We talked about it, the Megan Fox and the
her
blood sex is like a normal. It's just a kink.
Yeah.
It's like smacking someone's butt. It's like, hey, let's have blood sex.
A few years ago, they were wearing like their satanic outfits or whatever and dresses, and I was like calling it out on Facebook, and some of my like super ultra Christian Oklahoma Bible Belt friends were like, oh, Lisa, it's just fashion. It's for a party. That's so silly. And I'm like, no, that's satanic, whatever. And they're like, oh gosh, I really like her songs. And Billie Eilish is just very fashionable and whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people. Like, but now it's this blatant where you can't deny what they're saying and doing and whatever. And I just can't believe I had to get to this point. Like, but now I'm like, okay, we have to be at the end of the road of this. That it has to be this blatant to get people to go, oh, you mean they're really eating babies? Oh,
yeah.
Like,
well,
insane to me.
But see, here's the negative part of me. If you slowly go there, if you turn the water, the heat up slowly, the frog will sit in the pot until it's boiling.
That's what's happened all these years.
Yeah, we can't argue that we are in a boiling pot. We just sit here talking about it. Like, yeah, the pot's boiling. We don't understand how do we let it get this way, and it can't get any worse. It's going to get worse, and people aren't going to get pissed off because it's not shocking. With the Grammy shit, I'm not shocked. There's nothing in me that's shocked. There's nothing in me that's angry. Just like, yeah, oh, they're at it again. You know, it's just like loud neighbors. You call the cops 10 times and nothing happens. You do it, and then you're like, whatever. It's like, if I can just not stress about it, or make my life, the best I can make my life is to not stress about it. And I think that's where so many people are. They don't feel empowered. They don't have any kind of they don't feel like they can do anything, because they're, constantly beaten down. Hunter Biden, all that stuff. People just, it's like you've got to get them pissed off enough to do something. And I think I'm completely right that it is going to be bad. Which might be what they want. The main goal, you have to understand, is population control, is the culling. World War I, World War II. It's like
but people are mad now. This Thailand princess fell into a coma after her prick, and the family has called out hitmen. Like, things are happening, like changing. People are mad.
See, you could say things are gonna happen, but then we're
happening.
But then we're talking about things that are happening. I think the world is done.
There's outages everywhere. There's things happening.
There's no hope for the world. The world is done. The world is over. The evil has control 100%. There is only the hope of the United States, and we are on a thread. And we still lead the world, but for 100 years, the world has been trying to change that. And now everyone has this idea of inclusivity and let's all be the same and we're all together, and we're not. We're the fucking United States. We are the leader. We saw injustice and we fix it every time. We fought each other. We picked up our arms that we're allowed to have by right, and we killed our family to free people, to end slavery. We killed our own families because we wanted to right a wrong, and we stopped slavery. We fixed it. And with the invention of television, we saw injustice.
But that's not what they're telling you. And what on Disney, Disney's not saying that.
Our kids stood up, everyone united, and we had the civil rights movement, and we fixed things. Evil constantly tries to take over and rule, and the United States, for 200 some years, has answered the call and drawn a line in the sand. And now everybody wants to be like them. Nobody wants to be a leader. Nobody wants to step on the necks of tyranny. Nobody wants to crush evil. That's what we do. We're Americans. We need to get back to what we're doing. We need to lead people. We need to lead the world. I mean, when I look at Russia, and they're weird and messed up, and Putin's all that, but then so much of their basic stuff is, that West is bad because it wasn't because of capitalism and all the other things it used to be when I was a kid. Now it's because, look at the damn Grammys. Do you want that here in Russia? We've got to defend against. It blows my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, interesting. I mean, that the wokeism has got to go, but I don't think that's what the majority of people, I just think they've been told that that's, rude, and that you're stepping on, and that, their feelings matter more than your rights and all that. And I think people have had enough, and I think we're at that tipping point where they're going to say, too bad. It's enough.
I think
And all these
I think
distractions
the world
are
is about
over.
70% woke, and then
No,
20%
no way.
20% awake, and
No
then
way.
10%. Lisa, you are in such a bubble, and I love you, but you know you are. And then
No
10% or
way.
more than probably 20% don't care, and then 10% are pissed off, angry, and awake. In the
That's all
world,
it
in the
takes.
United States, just look at the map. Just look at the elections. We're 50-50. We are 52-48. We're 47-53. We are half and half when it comes to like I said, we're hanging by a thread. In the United States, it's 50-50. It is.
Well, I'll take my 50% and go home.
I mean, if 30% stood up,
Because that's not America then.
yeah, that's what I've been saying. It's we
But
want to.
and then half of Canada feels the way that the half of America that I feel does.
Yeah, Canada is U.S. like. It's America's
Yeah.
hat. It's not even a real country. I mean, sorry about that. Canada is basically like the United States if we would have lost the war for independence. We'd still be different, but it wouldn't be the same. Canada, if you ever go to Canada, it's very European. They used to just love the Queen so much. I remember it was so weird because it was like America, but they really loved the Queen, and there was kind of like European architecture and stuff. It was such an odd place when I was a kid and would go there. But yeah, I mean, Canada, a lot of people in Canada, I told you about this during the trucker thing. A lot of Canadians were so much more American than Americans were. There were people not connected to anything. They were just a soldier, just a cop, and they were like making videos. I'm resigning. I don't want to be I don't want to be connected to the government. People had just a government job. You know, they're like a parks ranger. So like, oh nope, I'm done. I'm not connected to this government. They're not. They're doing this. You said that Trudeau's own security forces were resigning.
Yeah, they did.
That's not happening in the United States. No
Oh,
one's
sure
doing
it
that.
did. Yeah, sure it did. There's tons of our military resigned. Tons of our military resigned. Um, that's part of the weakening of our military. Not to mention them sending a lot of our property over, away. But yeah, I think so. Before we jump over to your channel, which I know we got to do here in just a little bit, to continue this conversation about the Brunson thing, there is a date set for the 17th. They've agreed to reconsider the case for possible hearing. If they get 4 votes on the petition will be granted, which means that the Solicitor General, along with her team of expert lawyers, will have the chance to battle it out to see if the Brunson brothers and see if the judges will determine that the oath of office is important. Remember, we talked about this the other day. Because right now it might as well not exist. The oath of office.
Yeah. There's so many
This
things.
whole case rests on this one question. If there is no penalty for breaking the oath of office, why have it at all?
Yeah.
And remember the remote viewing that Dick Allgaier and all them had, where Congress is like crying and they're throwing up and all this. I mean, this could get rid of them. And when we went to the education where I looked up, or I found that term sovereign immunity, because I was like, why are they're all pledging what to what? I'm like, where's the Bible that you're pledging an oath to? And they were like, oh, they don't pledge to
all of y'all make fun of
that.
Me. All of y'all make fun of me when I say that America is holding on by a thread. The only thing that is keeping us is the Supreme Court. Everyone's like, oh, no. Dude, it is. That's it. This is the only thing I think nonviolent. If this goes through, and if the United States knows and understands,
but
and it gets reported,
this could break apart, and then we
sovereign
would have
immunity gets out there, and people
states.
Understand what's the point of having that oath if you don't have to keep the oath.
Exactly.
I think if that gets out there, and then if we do hold people accountable, hey, you passed a law that you knew was unconstitutional, and it had to go to the Supreme Court. You broke your oath. You're supposed to defend the Constitution, and you made a law breaking it. There has to be some kind of a week in jail. If you put some of these old fuckers in jail for a week, they
wouldn't
wouldn't know.
make it.
I ate ramen noodles. Have you heard of the ramen noodles? I mean, oh, these things are pretty good. It would be insane, and shit would change overnight. Overnight, you wouldn't have these giant bills that are, 4,000 pages and have to be passed, within like 8 hours. Nope, not going to sneak anything in there. Lobbyists would lose their power. The one thing people care about, even people of, is their power and their freedom. Yeah, they love money. But if you go in there and say, hey, man, I need you to put your power at risk because you could get caught and in trouble for this, and
Yeah, I think that's a great
and
idea.
your
You've been
freedom,
talking about
but
that
I'll
for a
give
while.
you, $1 million. Like, no, I have $20 million already, and I'm not going to do that because I want my power and I want, my freedom.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to jail. I don't want someone to braid my hair and call me honey. No, that's another thing they don't know. Like, they're so far removed. I've never been to jail except to clean it when I had, I got a ticket and I was a teenager. So, like, I was horrified of jail, especially now I'm fucking old. Before I just thought I'd go in there, had to fight everyone or something. But, I mean, I have friends that like jail's no big deal. They'll go to jail like once a year, not prison,
Oh
but,
my gosh.
they'll like get pulled over, argue with a cop or, something like, oh, I gotta go to jail. I was in jail for the weekend. It's, to me, it's, nuts, weird.
Yeah, that's not a normal thing.
But, those people, they have no idea. At least I have an idea of what it would be like. It's not that scary. It's not that, on your like county jail level.
Ours
But,
is terrible. Like, they have people die at our county jail all the time. There's like, it's a big like issue in Oklahoma County.
really, I
Yeah.
remember, funny story is, so when I got married, my wife's family hated me. They hated me so much. They always hate me. They still hate me. But they hated me. I remember.
Consistent.
Why do you think they hated me so much?
I have no idea.
Because I was from New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey. I swear to Christ.
That's weird.
Yeah, I was a Yankee, and they said this to me because it was like a big deal. I was, where I got serious, and I was like, they hated me, and like her sisters, everyone loved me, but parents and they did,
How
and they're like, well, you're
small-minded.
not as bad as an N-word, but you're very close. And like, how do you argue with that? Like, okay, I've lived in Texas, since I was 14 years old. I'm, this is my home, whatever. I mean, I grew up a lot in Europe and stuff. Like, oh, that's even worse.
Well, and there's nothing wrong.
But
I just can't
so
even.
they hated me so much, and then they're all in law enforcement. Everyone works at the prison. All the women work at the prison. All the dudes are cops. Her dad was a state trooper. So, we get married super, super young. Do we have? No, did not have the kids yet. I am assistant manager at Domino's.
So they can still get rid of you.
I am working, I think, probably like 50 to 60 hours a week at Domino's. And I was making like good money as assistant manager at Domino's, for our area especially, and for me being, 19. So, but they built a brand new, super state-of-the-art, crazy jail in our county seat, which is the next town over, which is where they all live. And it's a really tiny town, but there's 3 prisons there. So it's, that's a decent little economy. Anyway, they're going to get me hired as a jailer. So then they're like, and they were all like, you'll be in law enforcement. That'll do so much. And my ex-wife was like, yeah, well, you'll be in law enforcement and they'll like you more. And I was like, and I thought, oh, it's a professional job. And, that'd be cool. So it's 30 miles. The other town's 30 miles away. So I go and they're like, oh, yeah, you're David's son-in-law. Yeah, okay. and the pay was $300. This is like 1991. The pay was like $300 less a month. That I'd have
Oh
to
my
drive
gosh.
30 miles a day there.
Yeah, no thanks.
So that's what I said. I was like, no, it's just not enough money. And they're like, boy, what are you talking about? You're gonna, and then it's all crooked. They hired. They had to put it because it was a state, job. They had to put it like in the paper and make it open hire, but they hired all nepotism and all friends. They literally, it was all just a show. They had 3 riots in our little county jail the
Oh
first
my gosh.
month. Everyone was fired. It was a huge. If I'm so glad I didn't take it, I'd have ruined so much. So I just kept, working at Domino's and then became a financial advisor. But
Good plan. Good
yeah,
plan.
yeah,
Hey,
it
let's
was.
jump
It was
over to your channel and talk about what you want to talk about
why
next.
don't you talk about the sovereign immunity thing? When is that? When are they going to
It's
have
the 17th, February 17th.
Is that when they're going to actually hear the case?
Yes.
What does it say? Because I read this
It
last night.
says, yeah. So it says the U.S. Supreme Court set the date for conference on the 17th.
Okay. Yeah, I remember there was some
So
word.
they're reconsidering it. They have to get 4 votes, then the petition to be granted, which means the Solicitor General, along with the team of experts that will be able to battle it out with
So
the
they're going to
Brunson
have like
brothers.
the vote on the 17th as to whether they're going to hear it.
No, they've agreed to reconsider the case for a possible hearing. Yes, I guess so.
Okay, so that's okay. Yeah, I remember thinking it wasn't like that huge of a deal, but and have you noticed that there's not a lot of the woman who doesn't know what a woman is, who decides women's rights and women's issues on the Supreme Court? Not a lot of talk about her.
Mm.
And I think that should be brought up every time. Roe v. Wade got changed.
Is that Kajanti Brown or whatever?
Anything that happens, be like, you guys put a woman there to decide on women's rights and women's issues, who said she doesn't know what a woman is. Shut up. Shut up.
But it really doesn't matter that she doesn't know, because judges are. So yesterday during the State of the State, like I was watching how people respond in the I don't know what it's called, rotunda or whatever.
It's a funny word.
And to different things that happen. I think that's what it's called. I don't know where they're sitting or whatever. And I would watch different sides stand up, sit down, fight, whatever, get excited about when he would make different
like it's
statements.
a pep rally. Stand up, sit
Yes.
down. Fight. Yeah.
That's what it looked like. But the Supreme Court, or the judges that were sitting in the very front row, which they brought them in at the very end, they were sitting and they never moved. And they never clapped. They never stood up, sat down. They didn't. They just sat there very still. And when I thought about it, and I, have been in court with my ex and all that kind of stuff, judges are to interpret the law. They're not to have their own opinion about things.
Yes.
And so I think that's part of it, is that when they're answering those questions or saying those things, I think it's that they're not supposed to put their own opinion on things. They're just there to interpret the law.
But
what does the law say? The law says this. I'm just applying what information is presented to me. They're not even supposed to, like, there was this one thing where one time, I can't remember how it happened. Like, I was in court and the judge kind of did me a solid, like, my attorney probably should have said this one thing. And the judge was like, this thing. And he's like, I'm not really supposed to say this, but your attorney should have said this.
There's so much that is crooked in the judicial system. As a kid, I remember I was a young adult.
Like, it's just a billing system.
Remember I said I had to clean the toilets, right? Or clean the jail. Mm-hmm. So I did something wrong, and I was a pretty popular kid. So I got some tickets, and we had this thing called teen court. And you went to court, and then people that were in, remember, like government was an elective and civics, but so they could there was a jury, and you go before the judge, and you say, hey, I did this. You plead guilty or no contest. You tell your story, and then the kids, they pass your sentence, and it's usually, some things are kind of wacky. But before, because you're in school, you have to be like, hey, do you know this guy? Do you need to recuse yourself? It was all, a big like learning experience about how it all worked, but it was real. So I go and I'm like, hey, I'm Mr. Popular. And then, like, this is going to be easy. But it always was the opposite, because like if the judge or everyone knew that you knew the person, they weren't going to be easy on you because they didn't want to be perceived that way. They wanted to show that they took it serious and they didn't do it wrong. So they slammed the shit out of me. I had to write like a poem, come back to the court, read it in front of the court like a week or two later. And then I got all this community service I had to do. And I was like, y'all are assholes. But so community service, I was friends with the dog catcher, and then I was friends with his son. So I'd go there and hang out. That wasn't bad. But then one week they didn't take me, and we had this brand new jail, and they're like, you need to clean the jail. And that was horrific. There was,
I'm sure that was disgusting.
Metal toilets. It was all puke on the metal, inside the metal toilet, and I had to clean it.
Oh, Lord.
So I pushed the button to flush it, and it went down, but it was like a drum. It sucked down, and it didn't suck it. It had dried into a skin, and then it popped back up. It didn't break it. It was the most, still to this day, decades later, it still freaks me out.
Makes you gag.
But then I had to, for weeks, I worked with the court. Like on the weekends is when I would go do it. I worked in the court, and all the court ladies liked me, and the clerk liked me, and that
had to probably be some good connections later on. Then
that's what I'm talking about, the crookedness of the system.
Oh,
and as an adult, like years later, I got a ticket. I go, and I was like, oh man, I can't afford this. This is huge. And he's like, oh, don't worry about that, Mr. Henderson. This Cal, this old black dude, super nice. He's like, Mr. Henderson, it's okay. You're upstanding citizen. You don't have to worry about that. Just pay what you can and come back. When can you pay some more? I was like, thanks, Cal. I just thought that's how it was. You make payments. So I had gotten, first off, I tell my kids this, I can't get a no insurance ticket. If I do, I'll go to prison. Because if they open my file now, they'll see I gotten like 6 no insurance tickets.
Oh my gosh.
And after 4, this is when I was like super young and broke. And before, if you get, I think like it's like, that, what's the word? Automatic, it's, I forget what it's called, zero tolerance. Like on your 3rd ticket, they take your car, and you can't get your license is suspended. And if you get a 4th one, because you're not supposed to even be driving because they took your license, you go to jail. That's it. It's like a mandatory. And I had like, every time I got one, they'd be like, oh, don't worry about it. And I was behind this dude who had the same ticket. And he was like, hey, I really need to pay. He's like, no, you're going to go to jail. I'm going to call officer right now. It's going to take you right now.
And you're like, what in the world?
And then he was like, can I write you this check and post date it for? I was like, all right, write one check for that. You post date the other one for Friday, but that's it. If it bounces, you're going to go to jail for that too.
Gotta go.
And I walked up to the window. I was like, man, Cal, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to do. I had the same thing that guy had. I got this ticket. He goes, oh, don't worry. That's for him. That's not for you. You're an upstanding citizen, Mr. Henderson. And I was like,
my gosh.
What? Thanks, man. It's really cool.
That's terrible. Hey, I want to answer this question before we jump over to your channel. Evoludio Tech, Valhalla Wisdom said, hear you, Lisa, but how can you claim to support women's rights but unable to define a female? Because women's rights are human right. It's a human rights issue. It's women don't have different rights than men. So it's just human rights.
That's a good word. And you know
That's,
how I am about
yeah,
listening to words. There should be no women's rights. There should be no gay rights.
I agree.
There
It's
should be
just
human rights, and then there should
human
be
rights.
protections. I can understand protections. Women might need other protections that men don't need. Gay people may need other protections that I don't understand because they're both men and women. If you that men and women covers everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but human rights. Everyone,
human
every
rights.
human has. Yeah. So that would be my response.
And do you know the word there, which I remember back in the 80s? Was it the 80s? It was the 80s or 90s when Star Trek changed it from where no man has gone before to no one has gone before. And this is part of what we talk about, is that people need to be just understand, and they don't. That, remember the old term knee-jerk reaction?
Mm-hmm.
That's what has caused so many problems. They made it where no one has gone before. But I remember as a kid, like, I raised the question as why is it just where man has gone before and not a woman? That's not, women are on the spaceship and women do stuff. And my mother said, "Oh, because it's mankind. We're all part of mankind.
Right.
So that means women and men. When you say we're no
Yes.
man, it's mankind. But you can't say where no mankind has gone before. But that's what it means." And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." And there's no more anger. There's
Yes.
nothing to be worried about.
Right. No one has to be less than.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
if you
I'm with
understand,
you.
in like Black Lives Matter, one word would have changed everything in our history for the past few years. Two letters. Black Lives Matter too. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Blue
I'm
lives
with
matter. White
you.
lives matter too. Yeah. All lives matter.
Yep.
Black lives matter too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Would you
Yeah.
like me to hold that sign? It's
I'll hold it too.
yeah.
Hey, let's jump over to your channel and finish this up. I'll see you over at Satoshi Sean's channel. There's a link in the description.
Remember to
Make sure to like
before you
it
leave.
on the way out,
Yeah.
please, if you have, and share it, please. That helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. And I love you all in the comments. Thanks for leaving all the comments. Good to see all of you there.
Love y'all.
Take care.